Now that you have worked on your mindset and built that self trust in you to manage your day to day, and somehow you have convinced your strict parents to let you go for your very first solo trip, you check your bank balance and realize that your dream is far from reality. But let me tell you, you don't need a lot of money to travel in India. Welcome to the Geek Chic podcast. I'm Roshni, and in this episode, we will talk about traveling on a very limited budget. When I started traveling solo, I didn't have a big budget. To be very honest, now as well, my travel budget is very limited. I'm not a luxury type of girl. I prefer hostels and traveling as a local. I don't know why is that, and I'm not saying that liking luxury is wrong, but that's just my preference. So I just want to say that it is very possible to at least travel in India with a very limited budget. And I will try to break this down in this episode. So, the very first thing I would advise you to do is pre planning and at least getting a ballpark estimate of how much you would need to go to a particular destination of your choice. So, a few things you can start with is figuring out where you want to go and what would be your mode of transportation to get there, figuring out a ballpark estimate as to how much it would take to go there, like your expenses and stuff. And thirdly, if you are working or you're a student, how many days you can take off, or if it's your vacation, how many days it would be. And yeah, figuring out the leaves part is quite important. If you are not working remotely, or even if you are working remotely, there are restrictions, and you don't have that rapport with your manager that you can just go anywhere and work from anywhere. So figuring out that part is quite essential and crucial. So where you will get this information from, right? You can go to forums like Quora or Reddit. I think all the Gen Z these days are on Reddit. So you can definitely put your question there, and probably someone would answer, or maybe like even the existing threads you can go through that. Also, like watching some vlogs and asking them how much the budget was or something like that, and at least you will get the rough estimate about how much you would need, how much the amount of money you would need to go there. And then you can decide, once you think that it fits, that destination fits your budget, you can like go and do the bookings. One of the biggest expenses would be the accommodation. So if you're on a tight budget, then I would suggest you to go for backpackers hostel. So a few things that I check for in a hostel is, first of all, the if it has a kitchen or not. I will get to why it is important. Then second is Wi-Fi. So I work remotely, so that's very important for me, like how good the Wi-Fi is. And third is also like how far it is from the tourist, or maybe like whatever you wanna check out, like if you want to go for a class or something, how far it is from that hostel. So all of these things I try to check and the apps I use are mostly booking.com or make my trip. So I check on both of these apps and then do a comparison, and then wherever I get the biggest discount, I go with that option. And booking.com also has a genius program, so I have unlocked the topmost level of it, so I get higher discount. I wouldn't say that my experiences with hostel has always been great, but I think that's a really good option if you're lacking vitamin M. And also I check if they have female only dorms. If they have that, that's like an added bonus, and I go for that. Also, checking the reviews is very important. So whenever I compare like different hostels, I try to compare the ratings, like how many people have rated it, and do a weighted comparison rather than just seeing like how many stars it is. And I also read the reviews to see like how is the cleanliness of that place, how is the staff, how helpful they are, and yeah, all of this I try to go through and check so that I get the best deal possible. One more thing I do is that sometimes I just book a hostel for like 2 days. If I feel like extending my stay, I just book it offline. So, what I do, I show them the online price, and they give me a good discount. So, that's also a tip I would like to share. So, the next biggest expenditure would be on your mode of transport and commute. As this episode is like we are talking about a limited budget, I would suggest you to go for buses and trains. But if you're on a very short trip and there's a time crunch, then it's better to take a flight if that's a possible option. For flights, I used to use Skyscanner, but post COVID, the prices are all the same on every app, so I don't think that makes a big difference. So I was in Bangalore, and to travel in the south from Bangalore was very easy. There were a plethora of trains and buses available from Bangalore, and I used to take the state's buses to go and travel. I think Karnataka's transport is the best in the country. So if you're in Bangalore, I highly recommend you to take the state buses rather than the private ones, because they are cheaper and like they have better accessibility, in my opinion. And also, if you're traveling in the south, you can also go for sleeper coaches compared to the AC ones if you want to save up a little bit more on that. In my experience, the trains that travel in the southern part relatively are better, like in hygiene terms and also safety. So if you're in the south, you can go for sleeper coaches, but if you're traveling in the north, I wouldn't recommend you to take the sleeper coaches because I never had good experiences taking sleeper coaches when I'm traveling in the north. So that's something to keep in mind, I think. So next is getting around your destination. I would recommend, and I also prefer, to travel like a local. So I usually take the public transport, so it's buses usually. And I would also suggest you to figure out the public transport before going to that destination. For example, in Gangtok, they have this shared cab concept, which is like a point to point taxi service, and which is like very affordable. And so sometimes they try to scam you as well, so ask them before getting on the cab, or check with them if it's a shared cab or not. So just getting to know the public transport system of that place would be very helpful for you and help in you not getting scammed. For example, in Goa, it's super expensive, to be honest. The taxi system is very expensive, but there are buses if you like go and check. But in places like Goa, I would suggest you to get a scooter and make sure it's the black plate, which signifies that it's a rental vehicle and not a private one. And also try to negotiate your best to lower down the prices, because like you are paying the rent, and on top of that you have to pay for fuel uh, separately. So that's like an additional cost. That a rental price is like excluding fuel charges. So keep that in mind when you are like quoting and negotiating the prices of the scooter. In the north, if you're not that used to riding on mountains, I wouldn't suggest you to rent a scooter. And scooters, like usually rental scooters don't have a good brake, like it's a bit worn out also. So if you're not used to like riding on the mountains, I wouldn't suggest you to rent a scooter. And also, in like, I will tell you a bit more of my experiences. I was staying in Nagar, and I used to like go to Manali a lot. So I used to take the bus to go there, because if I could took the taxi, it would have been very expensive. So try to travel like a local as much as possible. But if you think your safety would be compromised, or you're not feeling that comfortable, then please do not hesitate to splurge a bit more, because your safety is more important than money, of course. Also, be ready to walk a lot. Yes, if you want to save money, then you have to walk a lot to just get by. And it is very important to lead a healthy lifestyle, if you want to travel on a budget. Trust me on this one. Now, the third expense, like major expense, would be your food expense. So if you remember, I had mentioned earlier that make sure there's a kitchen in your hostel. If there is a like functioning kitchen in your hostel, it's like an added bonus. You can make at least your breakfast, like you can make easy dishes like oats and eggs and sandwiches, so that you don't spend a lot on restaurants and outside food. So that's why a kitchen is a must, in my opinion, if you're on a budget. So what I usually do is I make breakfast for myself, and I love coffees. So I usually drink 2 cups of coffee every day. And if I'm drinking coffee from outside, it will add up and it would be too expensive. I wouldn't realize it, but it would add up. So just to like avoid having to have food from outside, you can like at least prepare small meals in the kitchen and save up. So usually the restaurants at these tourist destinations are super expensive, and the food, to be very honest, is mid. I'm not big on food because nowadays you get the same thing everywhere. I usually splurge on dishes which I wouldn't like find easily back home. So that's the only time I splurge on food. One more thing is that I usually avoid drinking alcohol when I'm traveling because, of course, like safety comes first, and that also saves a lot of money as well. And also, I would suggest that if you meet a group or if you find there are other like solo travelers, you can group up and divide your expenses like that. And also, please try to save contacts of the staff of the hostel, cab or auto driver's number. You may never know when it would be helpful, and maybe in the future also you can get discounts. So that was all for this episode. I hope this was helpful, and if you have any other tips, or if you use any other app that I have not mentioned in this video, please let me know in the comments. And like always, being a geek is pretty chic, and good luck.